Hi all, today I was shocked by the fact that Kevin here has never heard of Dan and Phil.
What?
Boo! So today I'm going to introduce Kevin, well, we're all going to introduce Kevin to the world of the fandom with a PH. And you might have not heard of him before, so here's a little clip.
No, you have to edit that in.
Yay, that was...
That
was so... Laugh.
What is the fandom you speak of?
Well, I don't know, but I'm holding some clues, such as this.
It's a bag.
Fandom.
It's a phone.
And the most important thing, the llama hat. Like...
Oh my god, it's a real llama. You killed a
I
llama.
can't do it. It's broken.
How can you break a llama hat?
Dum dum. So if you manage to become part of the fandom, you get to wear this at the end of the video. Okay? So how are we going to introduce you to the fandom? Well, we're going to read the most important piece of literature in all of history, the Hat Fic. Okay, so we're going to read the Hat Fic together.
We're all very excited.
And by the end, he'll be a huge fan like the rest of us.
Yes.
It is the rite of passage, this, yeah?
So, hey Dan, can we get a hamster? I always wanted one, but my roommate never thought that we would look after it.
Phil, we've talked about this. You wouldn't look after it properly. You can hardly look after yourself.
He retorted. It wasn't really in an angry way, but he never even took into account that I was older than him and I lived by myself before him. So getting a hamster wouldn't be that bad. I decided not to argue. Dan was stubborn and wouldn't change his mind. I was going into town later on anyway, so I needed to get changed. I put on my usual of skinny jeans and a top on. I finished getting the few pieces of food that Dan and I needed and was heading back to get the bus. I walked past a pet shop. I couldn't resist but walking in, and I saw a cage with a small fluffy black and white hamster in the corner. I looked at the price. £10! It was too small and cute not to say no to. So I bought it and a cage. I walked out just as my bus arrived, paid my fare and hopped off. I couldn't stop smiling. My hamster was one of the best things I've ever done. Or so that's what I thought. I got home and shouted to Dan.
Dan, come and see what I've bought.
He bounced up into the hallway of the front door.
What's up?
I raised the cage with the furry ball curled up in the corner. Again, the expression on his face changed from a sweet and innocent smile to a sick and twisted one with an evil glint in his eye.
I love it. I was completely wrong about saying no to getting one.
He sounded genuine.
was.
So genuine, but there was something about the way he said it that made me feel a bit uneasy.
So, what's it called?
Can we call him Striker, please? I've always loved that name. I don't really know why.
Sure.
His reply was cold and harsh. What was wrong with him? I shrugged it off and went into my room. It was only about 9, but I was tired and felt a bit ill. Felt spelled F-E-K-T.
Effectively ill.
I pulled my PJ bottoms on and slipped into bed. What can happen now? I wonder. Ooh, let's find out. I woke up during the night, my body freezing cold, and I was unable to move. I opened my eyes and they were wide in shock. I looked down and was naked with ropes tying me to a chair, and in the corner was a sinister looking Dan that was also naked.
Morning, Sleeping Beauty. I was wondering how cold the room had to be for you to wake up.
I like the story.
His voice sounded so fluffy and innocent, but the words coming out weren't. It was only wearing his fluffy brown hat. He pulled it off to reveal a small black creature sitting in it. Striker. What the fuck was he doing? I don't normally swear, but this situation was so confusing and I was terrified. What was Dan going to do to me?
Dan, what are you doing? Why am I tied up? Why?
I stopped when he moved towards me. His expression changed from being happy, like when I woke up, to murderous.
Don't be scared, Phil. We're gonna have some fun with Striker.
He cackled menacingly and showed off his erect member, making mine start to rise. He put the hat down. Striker was still sitting in there and faced it with his length, the perfect height to aim into it.
Dan, what are you doing? Please stop.
Yeah.
And he stormed over to me and gave me a rough kiss.
Everything will be okay, I promise.
Dan grabbed the gag from behind me, put it over my mouth. He walked back over to the hat and began to stroke, looking over to me as he did so. After a short time, his seed exploded into the hat, but he didn't stop there. He kept on going until the hat was filled to the top. The white liquid was nearly spilling over the top. My poor hamster was barely able to breathe. I was doing the doggy paddle just to survive, and all I could do is sit and watch. Dan grabbed the hamster's head and pushed it down into his own sperm. After 5 minutes of his sick games, he pulled it back up, dead. He snapped the hamster's head off, the neck bones shattering and making me mumble that was supposed to be a scream. Tears flowed down my face, and he squeezed the blood of Striker into the hat. He looked over towards me. It was sick and twisted, but also kind of sexy. He picked up the hat and moved towards me, and with one hand undid the gag.
Open wide. Ugh.
He said in a sarcastic tone. I did as I was told. I didn't know what else was hiding behind me. He began to pour the sperm and hamster blood mixture into my mouth, only for me to realize he had put my poor Striker back in there, head and body. The fluid tasted disgusting, partly because it had gone cold, but also because I knew that it was my hamster's blood I was drinking. He pulled back halfway through, not that I was complaining, and said,
Good little Phil. Do I taste nice? Oh.
Your motherfuckers need Jesus!
My eyes widened. What do I say? I was about to open my mouth when he slapped me. He wanted to raise my hand to my face. My cold face stung when his hot, sticky hand touched it.
You taste amazing, Dan.
Yeah, I do. Time for more fun.
I didn't like where this was going. He pulled the black body that was coated in white from the hat. Dan rammed it down my throat, causing my gag reflexes to kick in, and I vomited all down myself. Dan smirked at this and got on his knees. He began to lick all over me. His soft tongue was gliding over me until it found its way to my throbbing erection. Yeah. He started at the tip and worked his way all the way down, deep throating me. It felt so nice. Most people couldn't do this, but it didn't last long. He looked up to me, his innocent brown eyes making me melt.
Promise you won't run.
He sounded so sorry, so I nodded. He got up and untied me. He grabbed me by the shoulders.
I'm going to lie on the floor. You are going to pull the rest of the hat on me and lick it off me, okay?
He growled. Sweet, loving Dan was gone then. I quickly nodded and he got to the floor. I grabbed the hat and poured it on him, just as he commanded. I began to lick it off. The mixture wasn't as bad as last time. Yeah, I think it's because I'm not having it forced down my throat.
Suck me off, Phil.
It sounded so weird, but yet again, I did as I was told. I wasn't as good as him. I could only fit half of him in my mouth before I felt sick. I was going for what seemed like forever before he pushed my head away.
You've done well, but there is one last thing I need you to do.
He pulled the hamster's head from the pile of leftover sick.
When you say stop, I will, but only if I think you've done good enough.
I started to shake and tremble. Dan put his arm around me.
It's okay, it won't be that bad.
He hushed me. He was so much nicer again.
Are you ready?
He asked me, a sense of impatience growing in his tone.
Yes, Dan.
I stuttered out, and he quickly rolled me onto my front, his hand placed on the top of my back, pinning me down, the hamster's head in his other hand, and nearing my rectum. I know where this is going. But do you know, he rammed it in with no hesitation, and a burning sensation spread throughout me. For the rest of it, he used his manhood to push it in. I wanted to say stop, but he wouldn't. I know it. It finally got too much, and I screamed out,
Stop!
I looked back at Dan, who just grinned.
Come on, I know you can do better than that.
He forcefully went in further, not quite all the way through though.
Dan, please, I'm begging you to stop. It's so sore.
I pleaded, the burning sensation turning into a stabbing feeling. Dan stroked my hair and gently pulled out of me. The hamster's head was still inside me. It felt horrible knowing that I had a dead animal's head sitting inside my intestines. Dan put his hand inside me and went deep. I cried out in pain. I felt like exploding. He finally showed me his hand with a head in it. I wished the torture was over, but I knew Dan would have other plans. But this time he didn't, and just wrapped his arm around my hips.
Let's go to bed.
Dan said, pulling me up. As he said so, I leaned in for a kiss, and so did he. We walked down into my room, and when we got in, he pushed me onto the bed. I thought he was going to want sex, but he was so caring and just spooned me until we fell asleep. I woke up to find Dan with a hamster's body and head in his mouth, chewing violently, bones snapping and crunching under his teeth. He had blood dripping down from his chin. He crawled over to me and I licked it off for him. He grinned as though I read his thoughts, and he finished eating. And every month we buy a hamster. Yay!
My God!
So what do you think of the Hat Fic?
It's the worst thing I've ever read in my life.
So, are you prepared to join the fandom now?
Absolutely not. Is that an answer I can give?
Uh-oh.
I feel like I need to take a shower now.
Okay, I think we failed to convert him into
Good.
a fan.
Thank God.
Oh.
You don't promote rape culture. That ain't funny shit.
Okay, so if you do want to convert someone into a fan, maybe reading the Hat Fic wouldn't be the best thing. So in the comments below, write something that will convince him to become a fan. And otherwise, we did a few videos on other channels. We did something on your channel, and that
My
his
channel. Yep, exactly. Just
So
a random.
on that tone of deepest disappointment, we failed.